Hello and welcome back to the William Gomes podcast. I am William Gomes and I am grateful to have you here. Today we enter one of the most central ideas in Lacanian psychoanalysis, something that lies at the heart of how we think, how we speak, and how we become who we are. It is the idea of the chain of signifiers. This is not just a linguistic concept. It is a way of understanding the unconscious, desire, and the very structure of the subject. It explains why meaning shifts, why certain thoughts return again and again, and why our inner world is never fixed but always moving. To begin, we must understand what a signifier is. Signifiers are not simply words, they are units of language that carry structure rather than meaning. A signifier can be a sound, a gesture, or even a silence that takes its place within a system of differences. In language, nothing means anything on its own. A word acquires meaning only because it differs from another word. This creates a chain, a network of relationships where each signifier points to another and never settles on a final meaning. This has profound consequences. It means that language is always in motion. It means that thought shift. It means that the meaning of our life stories is not fixed but continually rewritten. It also means that the unconscious is not a container of memories. It is the movement of signifiers through this shifting chain. When a child enters language, they are given signifiers before they understand them. The name, descriptions of their behavior, the roles others imagine for them, the stories told around them, all become signifiers that mark their place in the symbolic world. These signifiers do not simply describe the child, they form the child. They bind the subject to a network of meaning that existed long before the child arrived. The subject is born at the point where signifiers meet. It does not precede language, it emerges because of language. This subject is not the same as the ego. The ego looks for images and coherence. The subject of the unconscious appears only in language, in the places where signifiers connect, conflict, or break apart. This is why Lacanian theory says that the subject is a product of the signifier. One of the central features of the signifying chain is that meaning slides. When we try to explain something, we move from one signifier to another, from a feeling to a memory, from a memory to an image, from an image to a phrase. There is never a final point where meaning settles. Something always escapes. This movement is what creates desire because meaning never stabilizes completely. Desire never stops. It keeps reaching, keeps moving, keeps searching. This sliding of meaning is also why misunderstandings are so common. When two people speak, they may use the same signifier, yet each person connects it to a different chain of associations. A single word carries a lifetime of history. Conversations are not simply exchanges of information, they are interactions between signifying chains. To understand how the chain of signifiers operates, we must look at metaphor and metonymy. These are not merely literary devices, they are the fundamental operations of the unconscious. Metaphor creates meaning by substitution, allowing one signifier to stand in for another. Metonymy creates meaning through association, linking one signifier to something close to it in time, space, or feeling. Consider how dreams work. A dream may substitute one person for another, blending images and experiences. This is metaphor. A dream may move from one scene to another through an emotional or symbolic link. This is metonymy. The unconscious expresses itself through these processes because it works with signifiers. not with fully formed ideas. Symptoms also use metaphor and metonymy. A symptom substitutes symbolic meaning for something the subject cannot express directly. A physical tension may represent an emotional conflict. A repeated behavior may symbolize something forgotten or repressed. Metonymy appears when a symptom is connected to an earlier experience, even if the connection is not immediately obvious. The symptom is a signifying formation. This brings us to the idea that the unconscious slips of the tongue are movements in the signifying chain. Something beneath the surface pushes one signifier into the place of another. Repeated patterns in relationships reflect a chain of signifiers that keeps returning to a familiar configuration. When we forget a name, it is not random. The missing signifier is caught in a chain that momentarily shifts. The chain of signifiers also helps us understand trauma. Trauma is not simply an overwhelming event, it is an encounter with something that cannot be symbolized. When something cannot be placed into the chain of signifiers, it remains at the edge of experience. It returns not as narrative but as sensation, memory fragments, or anxiety. It appears where the chain breaks. Anxiety emerges when the signifying chain loses stability. When meaning collapses, even briefly, we encounter something raw and unprocessed. Anxiety signals that the unconscious chain has been disrupted. It is the feeling of being unmoored, of not knowing what signifier comes next, but the signifying chain is also where transformation happens. When someone speaks in a therapeutic setting, they create new connections between signifiers. They tell their story differently. They hear their own speech in a new way. They articulate something that was previously unspoken. In doing so, the chain shifts. A new signifier appears. The subject becomes positioned differently. This is why speech has power, not because it expresses an inner truth, but because it changes the chain that constitutes the subject. A single phrase, a new association, or a moment of insight can redirect desire. It can transform how the subject relates to their past and their future. The chain of signifiers also shapes our understanding of ourselves. When people describe themselves, they rely on signifiers such as strong, sensitive, responsible, or anxious. The signifiers come from the other, from family, culture, school, or social expectations. The subject takes the signifiers on and weaves them into a narrative, but because signifiers are not stable, this narrative can shift. When new signifiers enter the chain, the story can be rewritten. This is why identity is not fixed. It is an ongoing process. Understanding the chain of signifiers gives us a deeper appreciation of the unconscious. It shows us that the unconscious is not a hidden realm beneath consciousness. It is the movement of language through us. It appears when meaning slips, when connections shift, and when speech reveals more than we intend. As we come to the end of this episode, I invite you to consider the signifiers that have shaped your own life, the names you were called, the descriptions others used, the words that stayed with you, the phrases that echo in your mind during moments of joy or pain. These signifiers continue to move, connecting memories, desires, and fears. They form the chain that shapes how you understand yourself and the world. In our next episode, we will explore the Lacanian body, not as a biological organism, but as something shaped by language, desire, and enjoyment. We will look at how the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real each mark the body in different ways. But for now, I hope this episode helps you hear your own words with a little more Curiosity, I hope it invites you to listen for the movements of the signifiers that quietly shape your thoughts, desires, and relationships. Thank you for listening. This is the William Gomez podcast. Take care of yourself, stay curious, and I will speak with you again soon.